Morning, colleagues. Hopefully everybody's ready to go here. The Committee on Finance is now called to order. The time is 10 o'clock on Monday morning, October 5th, 2020. Pursuant to applicable law, my determination that attendance by remote means is necessary because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the declared public health. Pardon?
What's he doing?
I'm going to do a roll call in a second, ladies and gentlemen. Because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the declared public health disaster caused by COVID-19, this meeting is conducted by video conference. For any questions that come up during the meeting, aldermen should please use the raise your hand function to indicate they have a question, and members of the committee shall be given preference. If you wish to make a point of order, point of information, or point of clarification while one of your colleagues is speaking, please use that raise your hand function. We will now have a roll call to establish quorum. Please unmute your microphone when your name is called. Okay, Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Dowell. Alderman King. Vice Chair Hairston.
Present.
Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal. Alderman Sadowski Garza. Alderman Patrick Thompson.
I'm here. I don't know where everyone else is.
Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn. Alderman Burke.
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Here, sir.
Yep. Alderman Moore.
Present.
Alderman Curtis.
Present.
Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tabares.
Present.
Alderman Scott.
Present.
Alderman Burnett.
Present.
Alderman Irvin.
Here.
Alderman Taliaferro.
Present.
Alderman Raboris.
Present.
Chairman Wagasback is present. Alderman Austin. Alderman Villegas.
Present.
Alderman Mitz. Alderman
Present.
Spizzato. Thank you. Alderman Spizzato. Alderman Napolitano.
Present.
Alderman Riley.
Present.
Alderman Smith. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman. And Alderman Silverstein.
Alderman Hopkins present.
Alderman Dowell present.
Alderman
Spizzato is present.
Hope not.
I hope not too.
Congratulations, Nick.
Congrats, Nick. Alderman Nugent's present.
I just want to know who he's pregnant by, though. That's all I want to know.
I just want to be a granddaddy.
Thank you, Alderman. I'm going to double check that count in a second, but we do have a quorum with.
Speaking of which, Alderman King is present.
Thank you.
You have me down, Chairman Alderman Silverstein.
Yes.
And Randy,
Thank you.
Did you get Alderman Beal as a yep?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to go back through real quick and make sure. And I will double check as we go through it. Alderman Mitz, is your are you okay there? You got two accounts open?
Yeah, I think one of my staff have one open.
Okay, just double checking there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the TEFRA hearing first, so bear with me as I work through that, and then we'll get to the regular order of business. So this is a TEFRA hearing with respect to the City of Chicago multifamily housing revenue bonds for HPR Preservation Apartments Project. Let the record reflect that this is a public hearing being held pursuant to the requirements of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. Notice of this public hearing was published on September 24, 2020 on the website of the Office of the City Clerk of the City of Chicago. This public hearing is held by video conference and made available to the public via a link located at shycityclerk.com and the toll-free telephone number 800-201-9352. Let the reporter mark the screenshot of such notice as Committee's Exhibit Number 1 for identification. And we will include this copy of the notice in the record. This is a hearing regarding the proposed issuance by the city of its not to exceed $7 million aggregate principal amount multifamily housing revenue bonds, HPR Preservation Apartment Project, Series 2020, or the bonds. Proceeds of the bonds will be loaned to HPR Preservation Limited Partnership, an Illinois limited partnership, or the borrower, the general partner of which is HPR GP LLC, an Illinois limited liability company, the managing member of which is Latin United Community Housing Association, an Illinois not-for-profit corporation. Proceeds of the bonds will be used to pay or reimburse the borrower for a portion of the cost of the rehabilitation of an existing low-income multifamily housing residential building consisting of 68 affordable studio units and commercial space located at 1152 to 1158 North Christiana Avenue and 3339 to 3341 West Division Street, Chicago, Cook County, Illinois, to result in a low-income multifamily housing residential building consisting of 65 affordable studio units and related common areas, or the project, and to pay costs of issuance of the bonds and related costs of the project. The city will issue the bonds pursuant to its powers as a home rule unit of government under the 1970 Constitution of the State of Illinois and an ordinance adopted by the City Council of the City of Chicago. The bonds will not be a general obligation of the city, the state of Illinois, or any political subdivision thereof, but will be a special limited obligation of the city. The principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds will be payable solely from amounts received from the borrower to repay its loan of the proceeds of the bonds, except to the extent such principal, premium, or interest is payable from bond proceeds, the income from the temporary investment of bond proceeds, and monies derived from instruments delivered in connection with the associated loan. The bonds will not constitute an indebtedness or an obligation of the city, the state of Illinois, or any political subdivision of the state of Illinois within the purview of any constitutional limitation or statutory provision. No holder of the bonds will have the right to compel any exercise of the taxing power of the city, the state of Illinois, the United States of America, or any political subdivision of any of them to pay the principal of, premium, if any, or interest on the bonds. Anyone who wishes to submit written comments on the proposed plan, we're asked to submit them to the Director of Legislation and Policy at om.brew@cityofchicago by 3:00 on October 2nd, 2020. Those comments would be made part of the public record. Let the record reflect that no written comments were submitted.
Mr.
Ladies and
Chairman,
gentlemen. Yes.
just Alderman Austin, I wanted to report is here for the purpose of the quorum.
Alderman Garza as well, Mr. Chairman Wagasback.
Alderman Smith as well, Chairman.
Alderman Quinn as well.
Issues, so you're okay.
Alderman Tunney also.
Thank you.
Alderman Sicho Lopez.
There's issues that he couldn't hear.
Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Let the record reflect there has been no response to the question posed by the chair if there is any member of public taxpayer interested person who wish to make a comment on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the public hearing on the proposed plan for the City of Chicago to incur the not to exceed $7 million principal amount multifamily housing revenue bonds for the HPR Preservation Apartments Project. Let the record reflect that the public hearing on this matter was concluded at 10:10 a.m., October 5th, 2020. This concludes the TEFRA hearing. I did just want to make one quick check here. Alderman Sawyer, are you here today? Alderman Harris? Alderman Cardenas? Alderman O'Shea? Alderman Osterman? Okay. I do have everybody else on the Finance Committee. Thank you. If our colleagues jump in, we can go straight to them after that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now go to the regular order of business for the regular Committee on Finance, which is hereby called to order at 10:11 a.m. on October 5th, 2020. I've already spoken to the need to have this meeting by remote means, and we have already established quorum. You should have in front of you at this point, I know that they were late, but the minutes from our last meeting per Rule 45 of the September Committee on Finance. Thank you for being patient with that late distribution, but there are summation of 3 meetings there. And I want to thank everyone for attending those meetings that we had about revenue options. And we had some very thoughtful questions that were put to the administration, some very great suggestions, and I want to make sure that we continue along that path. Does anyone have any questions on the Rule 45?
Chairman, Alderman Lopez.
Yes, Alderman.
Before making a motion to approve the Rule 45, I just want to point out that item 2 on page 1, which was the request for the TIC documentation regarding the timelines from submission to approval or denial. That information was to be given to the committee through the chair and has as of yet not been provided. Outstanding that, I would move for the approval of this.
Okay, hold on a second. Just make a note there. I will follow up with them on that and make sure that we get that through the chair and out to every alderman today after this meeting. Thank you. Would you like to make a motion for roll call? I mean, excuse me, for Rule 45. Okay.
By the same recommendation.
Alderman Lopez has made a motion on Rule 45. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Lopez, and I'll follow up on that. All right, we will now move to item 2 from the Department of Housing. This is the matter that we just spoke to in the TEFRA hearing. This ordinance seeks to issue up to $7 million in multifamily program funds in the execution of a funding loan agreement with HPR Preservation LP, HRP GP LLC, Center for Changing Lives, and Lucha for the properties located at 1152 to 1158 North Christiana and 3339 to 3341 West Division Street and 1146 North Christiana Avenue in the 26th Ward. Dinah Wayne from the Department of Housing will join us on this issue to testify, and Alderman Maldonado should be here to close on that item. Dinah, could you please make your presentation, please? Alderman Lopez, I think you might be unmuted there. Are you ready, Ms. Wayne?
Chairman, she's muted. I believe she'll be with us in just one moment. Ms. Wayne, if you could unmute your, I see you on here. If you could unmute your microphone.
Chairman, this is Alderman Harris, wishes to be counted for the quorum count for the meeting. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
With Alderman Sawyer.
Thank you. I got both in there.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you, Chairman. As he said, I am here to present Lucha. This is a project in Alderman in the 26th Ward. It's a project that we are proposing to give bond funds, TIF money, home funds, and then tax credits as well. This project was built originally in was finished in 1996, and they're coming forward to rehab the building. It's, when completed, going to be 65 studio units, all with their own bathrooms. The project is ready to go. They have we are giving it new home funds, and it also had an original home grant back in 1994. Current funding also includes IDA funds from that time. I'm having trouble getting into it. One moment here. Excuse me while I check one thing. Mike, are you on the, oh, okay. Yeah, we're coming this time with a substitute ordinance because last, when we introduced this in September, we expected the project still to have federal home loan bank funding. However, because of the new investor that Lucha brought on, the way that they're going to invest the money no longer meets the long-term, I don't remember exactly the right words, long-term funding that Federal Home Loan Bank would have required. So they would lose a point on their application from Federal Home Loan Bank and would no longer be eligible for that funding. So they asked the city, after we introduced the ordinance, if we could increase our level of home funds from 3,800,000 to 4,350,000. So hence you have a substitute ordinance to show that new home amount. I think while I'm looking for something else, I'll ask if there are questions and then fill in any answers that you might have as a result.
So, point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Burnett, go ahead.
Yeah, all of these deals are very complicated. First of all, I want to say Lucha is a great organization, do a great job. And I commend Alderman Maldonado on his constant sustainability of affordable housing in Humboldt Park. I'm just, so the home funds, two things. One, what type of tax credits are there?
These are 4%.
4%?
Yeah,
Okay.
from the bonds that we're going to issue.
Okay. And so when you say the new investor, that's the investor of the tax credits?
Exactly. Korea has a different, right.
So it's the buyer of the tax credit. So he's buying less or more?
He's buying the same, and he's giving a very good price, but he hasn't yet identified the funds where the money is going to go into. And those funds can't be guaranteed to be what they call long-term something investment funds. So it has to do with the funds that Korea is going to use. And because it wasn't clear that they would meet FHLB's, grant requirements to give a point for. It's not that they're illegal or anything, but they just don't, you get points for certain kinds of investments and you wouldn't get a point necessarily for that.
So, of course. Okay, so with the home funds, so the home funds is federal money?
Yes.
That the city have to approve?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, it's, it's federal money that's granted to the city. Oh, yeah. Are you making the distinction between tax credits, which we wouldn't need to approve, and home funds?
Right.
Right, exactly. Home funds, we definitely need to, you guys need to approve.
Okay, but it's federal money. So you have bonds, TIF, home funds, tax credits. Do you have any debt, other debt like from banks or anything?
The only other debt is the existing debt from before, which is the a portion of the home grant or home loan from 1994 and a loan from Ida.
Okay, so you have to pay those both back, or you refinancing both of those?
Exactly. Well, they're not going to be totally taken out. They have a debt service schedule for both, for continuing to pay the city on their original home loan and Ida as well.
All right. I tell you, all of you all's funding is so complicated. I think I need to just take a class on how you guys do this stuff, because it's a lot. I commend all of you all in this affordable housing thing, how you hustle to get all these different entities of money and wait on it and in the timelines that they use. Okay, that's all I have. So basically, you redoing this to sustain the housing that you have already. This is not for new housing, right?
Right, exactly. It's
All
to
right,
keep it affordable.
Okay, I commend you for doing that. Keep up the good.
Alderman Burnett, Alderman Thompson and Alderman Lopez still need to speak on this, but could you make a motion for the substitute to increase the home funds from 3.8 million to 4.350?
So move.
We have a substitute motion from Alderman Burnett. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and we are speaking to the substitute. Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Alderman Thompson?
Yep. I just fell there. Can you hear me?
Yes, and then we'll have Alderman Lopez next. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I too want to commend my colleague on the affordable housing. I do have a question just on the overall project. So what's the overall cost of this project?
Oh, good question. I believe it's between 14 and 15 million dollars. I would have to look at the.
I'm sorry, who's speaking now? Is it somebody from planning?
Yeah, from housing, Dinah Wayne.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay. Are you?
I'm trying to check the. 14,179,729.
Okay. And how much the breakdown? We just got the email of the substitute. So tell me how much are the bonds?
Up to $7 million in bonds, 4,350,000 in home funds. Who's doing the PowerPoint? Could you guys just go to the budget slide? That's part of that.
Oh,
yeah. $3.8 million in TIF. And then this is actually the old slide. The 750,000 was the Federal Home Loan Bank money that's no longer available. So that's been folded into the multifamily loan. The bonds,
so the multifamily,
the home funds, the home funds.
Yeah, the home funds went from 3.5 to 4.3.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and so you're saying that they currently have a loan from the city.
Yeah, an outstanding home loan of about 1,760,000 and an outstanding loan from Ida of about 460,000.
And they're current with that?
I believe that the developers on the line who could answer the Ida better. I believe they're current with the Ida, and they pay the.
I'm more concerned about us. We're the lender.
Yeah, they have been making payments, although I believe not recently, but they do make payments on that loan.
Alderman Thompson, did you want the developer to speak to the other side as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a yes, no. Are they current with their current loan with the city?
Ms. Wayne, could you have them identify themselves and speak to that specific question, please?
This is Charlene Andrews. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi, Charlene Andrews, Director of Affordable Housing with Mucha. We are current with all our loans for this project with both the city and with IDA.
Okay, I appreciate that. And so this is, the building was built in 92, it's a renovation. So I just wanted the breakdown to understand where all the pieces are on this project. So it's entirely funded. There's no equity or other private debt, as I think Alderman Burnett alluded to, correct?
There is no private debt. This is essentially an SRO, single room occupancy project. And with extremely low income residents, the rents we provide do not really allow us the ability to afford hard debt.
Okay, and just on that, what are the rents?
The rents vary. We have 2 subsidies at the project for both Chicago Low Income Housing Trust Fund provides subsidy for 20 units. Chicago Housing Authority provides subsidy for 20 units currently, with an 8 additional subsidies after the rehab. The current rent for the Chicago Housing Authority units is $850 a month. The Chicago Low Income Housing Trust Fund units, those rents are $650 per month. And we have units that do not have any subsidy. Those units are currently at $472 a month currently, and after the rehab will be $520 per month. We are also adding, after the rehab, we'll have 6 units that will be subsidized by IDA's 811 program.
Okay. Thank you. Wish you luck with this project. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you.
Alderman.
Chair.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Lopez, before you start, Miss Wayne, did you go through all of the slides that you needed to here?
I think so. We also had an elevation of the building.
No, you can put,
Keep
yeah,
going.
go ahead and put that
Yeah,
up.
there we go.
I'm
Yeah.
going to hand it over to Alderman Lopez to ask a question here. Alderman Lopez?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to ask with regards to the TIF request. When was this submitted to the TIC?
Oh, probably a year. I would think at least a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. We went to the committee, and then we also had to go to CDC for the TIF funds.
So this is not a.
And I believe that was
So
last.
this has been a
June.
long.
Yeah, exactly. The developer's tax investor, the previous tax investor, fell through last March, and it took them some time to get a new tax investor on board, and that was one of the causes of the delay.
Okay, and is all of this money coming directly from whatever the local TIF is, or is it being?
Yeah,
sorted
exactly.
into
The project's located, yeah, it's located in the division home in TIF, and all of the TIF funds are coming from that TIF.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alderman King.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just had a couple of quick questions. Are there fees associated, developers fees, and what are those?
Yes, there are developer fees. One moment. Charlene, are you still on that you could, oh, here. The developer fee, it's very modest, $460,209. And that's the realized and then deferred $180,200.
Okay. And There's a rehab or construction component on here.
Oh, yes. Did you wonder the cost of that?
Yes, and
Yeah.
go ahead. And then what the diversity goals are.
Okay, so the construction costs are $7,701,181. So again, that's, about half of the construction budget. I mean, half of the total project cost. And then 26 and 6 for MBE WBE.
And I probably missed it, but if 7 million is for construction, what's the other part for?
Oh, it's a miscellaneous, their fees for bonds that add up. Their fees for reserves, but especially the tax incentive wants to make sure that the reserves are very.
Do you have that on a slide
healthy.
as well?
No, not on the slide. So the fees themselves between the bond fees, they're basically $716,919. And then there are also a lot of soft costs, like just engineering or an architect, especially architect. The building had to be largely the plumbing and such redesigned to put in the bathrooms. And so there were a lot of fees related to the redesign of the building to, put the new amenities in. So those.
So you're saying
fees,
it's a $15 million project, 7 million construction and 7 million plus in soft costs?
There's also acquisition in there for the transfer of the property to the new ownership and provide some eligible basis for the tax credits.
Okay.
That's about 2.4 million.
Could you just send that the kind of
budget?
overall, kind of capital stack with the resources as well as
sources and uses to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Wayne, just send it to the staff and we'll get it out to all the aldermen.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Burnett and then Alderman Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to ask, what type of CHA money is that?
This is a rental subsidy only. There is no CHA capital in the deal.
So what do you call the rental subsidy? That's not Section 8.
It's a project-based rental subsidy.
Is PRA?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Smith?
Yes, this sounds like a really wonderful project. How many units total are in this project?
They're going to be they're 68 now, but because of the space needed for the bathrooms, there'll be 65 upon completion.
So before this, did any of these units have bathrooms?
Yes, some did. Some had what they call Jack and Jill. They were shared bathrooms.
Okay, but now you want, sorry. So this project was, do you have a way of knowing between the original cost and the rehab cost, what the per unit cost of these apartments have been?
Let me check that.
The overall development per unit cost is $218,150 per unit.
And what would you say is the largest aspect of the cost of a project like this?
In this case, it's largely the reconfiguration for the bathrooms. We're also adding a sprinkler system. So those are probably the most significant costs.
And what was this site before? Was this publicly owned, or did the city have to acquire it from a private investor?
This building was built in 1995 by Lucha initially. At that time, it was the first new SRO in Chicago in approximately 40 years. Lucha has owned and managed the property since 1995, and this is a preservation of those units with the addition of putting in the private bathrooms.
It's absolutely terrific. But my question was, did Lucha own this property? Was it bought for them? Was it a private purchase? Was it city land? I'm just
In
curious.
1994, you mean, or?
Yeah,
or
in
recently?
1994.
In 1994, I believe it was a city donation of property.
City donation of property. So if you had to actually buy private property, it would certainly could significantly increase the cost of the units.
It would definitely increase, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is terrific. Congratulations to Alderman Maldonado. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Smith. Was Alderman Maldonado on the call through another number? I don't see him on. Let me just look through here, ladies and gentlemen. Alderman Maldonado, are you in on a different number? No. On item number 2, we had a substitute ordinance. May I have a motion for approval of the item number 2 then?
So moved,
Alderman
Chair.
Hopkins moves approval of the
Hopkins
substitute.
moves to pass. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. And good luck to Alderman Maldonado on that. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to items number 3 through 6. Items 3 through 6 are, excuse me, appointments and reappointments to the Northwest Home Equity Commission. We are joined by Ivy Ellis and the appointees, Mr. Gordon R. Hawks and Ms. Laura M. Sayen. We will then hear from the reappointees, Mr. Pablo Medina and Ms. Diane Reyes. The resumes of all the appointees were emailed to you by my staff. We will hear from Ms. Ellis with a little bit of background. Ms. Ellis, just to introduce yourself and go ahead there with the appointees.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Alderman. My name's Ivy Ellis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Northwest Home Equity Assurance Program. A little about the Northwest Home Equity Assurance Program. We are a neighborhood stabilization program on the northwest side of Chicago. We've been in existence for a little over 30 years. We were established in 1989, and it was passed into law in 1988. We right now have over about 2,000 members in our program, and we service the northwest side. Last year in 2019, we introduced a home improvement loan program that is for, again, our programmees, that they can come and get a home improvement loan with between 0 and 4% interest. And we work with our partners, Marquette Bank. Our program is a guaranteed program, the overall program, where we guarantee home prices on the northwest side. So that means if someone enters their home into our program, we guarantee is if they decide, to sell in 5 years, that we guarantee that price. If they cannot sell at the price that we guarantee, it falls below market rate, we then can subsidize that amount. So a good example is if someone's home is in our program for $200,000 and they go to sell in 5 years and only sells at 150, we're able to cut a check for the balance, which would be 50, or the difference, which would be $50,000. And that's kind of a little bit about our program. Our boundaries include the 30th Ward, 36th, 38th, 29th, 39th, 45th, 31st, some of the 41st, the 37th, and the 35th.
Okay, thank you. I think you have 2 people there that are new appointments, Mr. Hawks and Ms. Sayen. Mr. Hawks, are you available to speak here? I think they were on, Ms. Ellis, right? Or how about, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we go with Ms.
Okay, now talk.
Oh, there's Gordon.
Chair,
Okay.
yeah. Well, good morning, Chairman. Yes, I am here. Can you hear me? Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My name's Gordon Hawks. I live in the 45th Ward and have been up here for about 45 years. And I am, my background, I'm a retired stationary engineer. I had 30 years with the Department of Aviation at O'Hara Field and retired several years ago. I have always been active in my area in my neighborhood. Been with the Scouts, Troop 969 for many years. And my two boys were in scouting over the years. My early years, I was with the Chicago Fire Department, Civil Defense, Fire and Rescue Division. That was in my early years. And we responded to all extra alarm fires in the city of Chicago. That was disbanded, I believe, in 1989 by Mayor Daley. And I thought, since I'm retired, I need to be involved in a few things. So I'd like to, I'm glad that the alderman had asked me to help out here and be on this committee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hawks.
Okay.
We're going to hear from Ms. Sayen next, and then we'll go to questions from the alderman on the new appointees.
Yeah, good morning. Hello. Hello, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Laura Sayen. I've lived in Chicago for 11 years and in the 31st Ward for just a little over 3. And I sit on the board of the Northwest Side Housing Center and the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation, and was nominated through them as a resident of the 31st Ward to sit on the Home Equity Assurance Program Committee. I currently work as an underwriter, program manager with U.S. Bank's Community Development Corporation, so underwriting affordable housing loans. And in terms of how I foresee my work on the committee, I think it's just a wonderful opportunity to participate both as a resident and as someone with some level of experience and expertise in the affordable housing field, but mostly on the multifamily program and ensuring similar equity and access to housing stability on the single family home side. So I look forward to the opportunity. I'm very thankful.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Pablo Medina.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, this is Pablo Medina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. Like I said, my name is Pablo Medina, and I come before the committee seeking confirmation for my appointment to reappointment, let's say, to the Northwest Home Equity Commission. I've been commissioner for the last 2.5 years. I plan to stay in Chicago for a couple of more years, and that's why I decided to continue when I was asked if I was going to consider being in the commission. So
Is that
I'm sorry.
Mr. Medina,
I'm a former state employee. I'm being retired for 33 years. And I used to work with the Department of Healthcare and Family Services. And my goal, I would like to continue with the commission because we started some new programs, and I would like to see those programs increase and to see more participation.
Okay, go ahead.
No, thank you. I don't think I have anything else to say. Is there any questions? I mean, I'll be more than glad to answer it for you.
Okay, hold on the line there, please. First up, so we do not have Ms. Reyes available. I'm going to open it up for questions for the other 3 members, the 2 new appointees and the reappointment. And we'll start out with Alderman Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to support all these nominees for this position. One of the top requirements, if not the top requirement, is simply a sense of responsibility to your neighborhood and a commitment to your community. And these nominees all clearly have that. So I'm pleased to support them. These are good appointments. But just one question for the executive director. Home Equity Assurance is a program. It's kind of has a paradox, since its goal is to promote stability and homeownership in a community. The very data that would prove the program's success sometimes can also be used to say, well, this program isn't needed. Look what's happening. The community is stable. So to that end, I was wondering if the executive director could just comment on the recent claims history of this particular program. Have you had to actually pay any claims in the last several years?
So we've had 2 claims since I've come on board as the executive director. So the first one in 2008 and another one that started in 2019. It was kind of held up by the pandemic, unfortunately, but they were paid out this year by July. So the claims are needed. I think when we think about our neighborhoods, it is such a different neighborhood. Each one has a different culture. And it would be nice to know think that all the neighborhoods that we service are stable, but they're not. And I think that that's something that we have to really look at when we think about equity across the board. So yeah, it's a very needed program, and we do stabilize neighborhoods. And yes, we do pay out. So since I've been here 2 years, and we've paid out 2 people. So those were the only 2 claims that we had come before our desk right now.
Well, very good. Thank you for that response. And I wish you continued success in your program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alderman Dowell?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask a similar question to that Alderman Hopkins asked. So, Ms. Ellis, can you just tell us how long has NW HEAP been around? And how many claims have you had to date in addition to those 2? And then my second question is, I know you guys started a low interest, 0 interest loan program. And do you have any takers on that? Where does that funding come from?
Thank you, Alderman Dow. The first question is claims to date. We have 7 total claims to date, which totals about $186,000. And that's kind of throughout the history of the program. The program was established actually when it's to law in 1988, and we opened up our doors in 1989. So we're about 31 years old. And then as far as the low interest home improvement program, the funding actually comes from our Illinois fund. So we open up an account. We work with Marquette Bank as a partner. So we put the money into Marquette Bank, and that's where we actually funnel our loans through. So we work with underwriting to make sure that, most people can qualify. They did have some of their underwriting kind of, I don't want to say things, but they had their underwriting that they had to go through. But a lot of it we wrote, which mimics much of a FHA. So most people can qualify based on if they have a lower credit score. The one thing we're looking for is to make sure that they have equity in their home. But to date, we are still moving the home improvement loan program. It is actually only a year old. And so far, we're seeing an upward tick, most recently, of people actually getting into that program.
Do you have a sense of how many? I mean, I'm trying to get like a number.
Yes, so total in our home improvement loan program, and I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my notes so I can be accurate. We have total loans that are out that have already gone through underwriting that are actually in motion. And we have about 3 more in the pipeline. So hopefully those close.
Okay, and then my last question is, you ticked off a lot of different wards there that make up your boundary. How many total housing units do you think, if you were to cast a number out there, how many housing units do you think are impacted by your legislation?
Alderman Dow, I do not have that number, but I can get that back to you. I can get you the actual figure. I will make sure that I.
Thank you very much. It just seems to me that, 7 cases since 1989, that's not very many. And I'm just wondering about the need for the program. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. And to kind of piggyback off that, I think that is important for us to pivot in the right direction to make sure that people know that this program exists, and that even if, not getting equity, or we want people to stay in their homes. So if they sell, that this is here for them to use. And also, we've done a lot of outreach to some of our older members to let them know that we're still around, and if they do need to file a claim, we're here. And also introduce our home improvement loan program, which serves as an addition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Dowell. Alderman Villegas?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This program, when it was instituted back in 88, 89, was actually a program that was designed to bet against diversity. And what you saw was a program that put together to vote against diversity, but what it proved was diversity works, and actually the prices of property have continued to rise over the past 30 plus years. In the Northwest Home Equity Assurance Program, during my first term, I really brought attention to it because of the fact that you had a board and an executive director that had been appointed for decades, and really that organization lay dormant, really didn't do much. And so as a result of bringing attention to it, the fact that it had nearly $10 million in its account with not many cases paying out, I spoke with some of the General Assembly members to allow the association to pivot and do some additional types of programs, which as a result now has the loan program. However, being during this COVID, I thought would have been a perfect opportunity to really highlight the program. I know that I have had a lot of honey-do list items to take care of, and I thought that maybe this program during this pandemic would have allowed for some home equity programs, more programs to kick off. So what needs to happen with this program, Mr. Chairman, is that I'd like to see if possibly there's an opportunity to do hearings on the whole program in itself. I think that it's a good program given the fact that we've allowed it to come into a home equity, a home loan program. But we need to get some attention on this program, and we need to take a look and make sure that people are actually taking advantage of the program. This program, people pay into this program via their tax bill, and it has $9.5 million, $10 million sitting in an account, and it has staff. And what we need to do is make sure that it's actually working for the people. What I'd like to see is have this program have $10 million worth of loans instead of just $10 million sitting in an account, given the pandemic and the challenges that people are facing. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to obviously support all the nominees. I'm glad that we're finally bringing some attention to this program, but I would ask, Mr. Chairman, if we can have hearings specifically on this Northwest Home Equity Assurance Program to make sure that we're challenging them in a good way, just to make sure that people are taking advantage of some of the programs that are in existence.
Thank you, Alderman. I think you brought this up in 2018. There were some other aldermen who brought it up back in 2011. So I'd be happy to have hearings specific to this program, especially with the aldermen who are affected by it in that area. So we can work on that to have that hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I can tell you that it's completely night and day under current executive director's leadership. You would have to drive by the office before just to make sure that the past executive director was still alive. Whereas when you drive by the office now, the lights are on and it looks like a functioning office. So we really appreciate the fact that the Northwest Home Equity Assurance Program, and more importantly, the new board of directors have brought some new blood into the program, but we just want to see it work a little bit better. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Alderman. Before I go to Alderman Taliaferro, I just want to note that Alderman Osterman is present for purposes of quorum. And Alderman Taliaferro.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question and I really agree with what my colleague Alderman Villegas just stated, and without reiterating everything. I just had a quick question for the executive director, because I had no idea that there was an application process. I would have certainly had someone from my ward apply, Because if I'm not mistaken, the business, well, the offices are still currently located in the 29th Ward. I just recently passed there and saw the signage up, but didn't know whether you're operating there. But my question is, what was your application process, and how many aldermen of the affected area did the applicant speak with, or the finalists speak with, and what input or did any of the aldermen have in this selection process?
Uh,
And that's for the executive director.
Yes. Hi, Alderman Taliaferro. We did not have an application process. The application went through actually City Hall, and we were notified of the reappointment.
I'm sorry, what do you mean it went through City Hall?
We were notified from Jill Stone, who oversees our program through City Hall, or the mayor's office. She let us know that we had reappointments and that they had worked with local nonprofits to reappoint or appoint and reappoint people to the board. So it was not an application process through our office.
So are you saying that that any, the residents of my ward or any of the other affected wards were not made aware that there was positions available on the commission or on the board?
Your point, no. And unfortunately, I was not made aware until those appointments were already appointed.
Okay. And
sorry, Alderman, point of information. Ms. Ellis, who did you say the person was?
Jill Stone is the person who oversees our program.
Go ahead, Alderman. I'm sorry.
No, I'm Chairman, I'm just a little concerned that, because I do know that I have one or two residents that have reached out to me in the past year or so that have expressed an interest in serving on the board or commission. I forgot which they call themselves. But I've not heard of an application. I've not heard of any vacancies or the need for reappointment. And I'm a bit concerned that, we do have a board that's sitting on $9 million or $10 million, as Alderman Villegas has stated. And I am one of the homeowners where taxes come out of my, I pay taxes into this program, as well as, thousands of other residents in the 29th Ward. And I would think that if you're going to appoint someone to this commission that's sitting on $10 million for the benefit of the community, I believe it's very important to let the community know, first of all, that there's a vacancy and that there's an opportunity for a community resident to sit on this commission. I'm a little bit disturbed that did not happen. And this is the first that I've heard that, we are reappointing or having a vacancy. So, and I'm a little bit concerned also that as I'm hearing, none of the aldermen in the affected area were somewhat made aware of this as well.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Alderman Villegas.
I just wanted to, when 2018, when the board, when we finally had an opportunity to change the board, part of the agreement was that each alderman would get one appointment that was affected by the boundaries. For example, one of the board members that's being reappointed today was recommended. I recommended, had a discussion with the mayor's office, and my understanding is that any alderman that had a vacancy, any alderman that had made a referral before or did not have a referral would have the ability to reappoint or make a recommendation to the committee for approval. So in essence, every board member, every alderman that's affected gets at least one recommendation to the board.
Thank you, Alderman Taliaferro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do recall, specifically speaking with, Alderman Villegas and at the time former Alderman Millie Santiago, detail about what was going on, because there was a lot of controversy behind stuff we probably don't need to get into today. There was a lot of controversy behind how the program was actually currently being operated. And that was one of the suggestions I believe that we did settle on. is that someone from each ward would sit on the board. And I think my objection was overwhelmingly. I think we had three members from the 36th ward that were being selected and put on there. I don't know what the final outcome was, but there were 3 representatives from the 36. I'd like to know who's on the board from the 29th, if I may ask the executive director.
Ms. Ellis, do you have a list of everyone else that is on the board right now? The commission. It is a commission.
It is a commission, yes.
Right. You could provide that. And for Alderman Taliaferro's question, which ward that they're coming from.
And also, is there any, I'd like to know right now if there's anyone from the 29th ward and how was that person selected?
The 29th ward is Thomas Simmons.
Is who?
Thomas Simmons.
Okay, Tommy's still on the board?
Yes.
Is he an active member?
He's very active.
Okay.
And I can give you all the current sitting commissioners. So for the 30th ward, we have Pablo Medina. For the 36th ward, we have Diane Reyes. For the 30th ward, we have Carrie Murphy. For the 39th ward, we have Mike Saladino. For the 45th ward, we have Andrea Mitchell. And for the 31st ward, we have Cindy Rice. And those are current ones. Not a few of those are outgoing and reappointed, but that is the current board as of today.
Point of information, Chairman. As stated, part of the agreement was that each alderman would get an appointee. So that the statement that my colleague made about 3 members from the 36th ward is just not accurate. This was a commission that had not done much for quite some time, and so as a result of getting buy-in from all my colleagues, I wanted to make sure that at least one representative from every ward would be made part of the commission. So as you can see from the report from an executive director, the 36th ward is just represented by one person, and every ward has at least one person that's represented.
Chairman, I'd like to jump in also. So every
Point of information by Alderman Sposato.
Just every commissioner was recommended by each alderman, because Alderman Villegas said everything I said. This organization was dormant forever. Somebody stabilized it for about 6 months for us before Ivy, and then we all got to pick a representative. And my understanding is, and I haven't been to many meetings lately, but in the past I've been to a few of them, that this group of people have been, pretty decent and shown up pretty much so, and proud of my commissioner, of her involvement in this commission also. So.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Sposato. Alderman Taliaferro, are you still there?
Oh, I'm
Alderman
still here. I
Taliaferro.
apologize. I was on mute.
Yep.
I apologize. I was on mute. That's all the questions I had, Chairman.
Okay. If you need to circle back around on this at the end of the discussion, I still have 4 aldermen that need to speak to it. Alderman Austin and then Alderman Raboris. Alderman Austin? There you are.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is in regards to Mr. Medina. His opening statement, he stated that he was thinking about staying. May I ask, how long is the appointment to this board?
Ms. Ellis?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Austin, the appointments run, and I'm actually quoting the Home Equity Assurance Act. So in our equity district, 1 serves for 1 year, 3 serves for 2 years, and then 3 serves for 3 years, and until a successor is appointed and qualified. All succeeding terms will be 3 years or until a successor is appointed or qualified. So following the letter of law, he will be on for an additional 3 years.
Well, if he haven't decided to stay in the city, why would we affirm this appointment? Because he said, I'm thinking about staying. And that bothered me when he made that statement. So if you're thinking about staying, then, how active will you be on this board, or how committed you'll be for the board.
And I think Commissioner Medina, I don't know if he's on here. He's very.
Yes, I am here.
Go ahead, Mr. Medina.
Hi. Well, like I said before, yes, I'm committed. I'm committed to be in the commission. And when I said, I mean, I'm planning to leave the city. Yes, eventually I will leave the city. But when I commit to something, I will go to the end. So yes, I was thinking that and no ask for a reappointment. But here I am, and I plan to stay for the next 3 years.
Okay. But in between that, then who is his appointee of what ward?
30th.
Ms. Ellis?
The appointee of the 30th Ward.
Okay, so that means Alderman Roboris will have, excuse me, an opportunity to submit for that vacancy in the event that Mr. Medina decides to leave before the appointment is up.
Correct.
All right. All right, then. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Alderman Boris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Ellis for coming forward and speaking on the subject matter. I as a 30th Ward owner for the last 33 years, I actually joined the Home Equity Assurance Program in 1989, and that's when it started. But as my colleague from the 36th Ward stated, we had very little direction. I believe that we are now moving in the right direction. In fact, what we're doing now in this Home Equity Assurance Program on the Northwest side, we're mirroring something that's currently being done or has been done in the Southwest side of Chicago with the Southwest Home Equity Assurance Program. And I think it's about time that we did something with the funding that we have there. I'm very proud that we have a constituent of mine in the 30th Ward, and Pablo Medina. He's been a homeowner for numerous years there, and he's committed. He's committed to doing what's right for the community and the logistics that we have to do to move this program in the right direction. So I want to thank Ms. Ellis. I want to thank all the members of the reappointments and also the new members that are there. Because I believe that there's more to come with this program. We're gonna use the best knowledge and the way to invest some money in our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderman. Vice Chair Hairston, and then Alderman Spizzato.
Thank you. So am I to understand that they did not talk with the aldermen for those recommendations?
The recommendations came from the aldermen based on the ward vacancies. So they reached out to where the vacancies were. So once the terms were up, then that alderman was notified by the mayor's office.
Okay. This is a little confusing. And so even aldermen that are no longer aldermen, were the new aldermen notified?
Correct. So the new aldermen were able to appoint, so the new aldermen who had vacancies in their ward were able to appoint someone to the board.
And the total number of vacancies were 3?
It was 4 people whose terms were up. 2 were reappointed and 2 are new, who are newly filled.
And the new aldermen have appointed their people to the commission?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Alderman Spizzato?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ivy, for coming here today. It's good to see you. I haven't talked to or seen you in a while, and it's only my fault. It's not your fault. So Alderman Villegas kind of stole my thunder, this operation. First of all, 30+ years ago, I was very active in getting this up and going, lobbying in the community. And I was in originally for the first year, right when it opened, I was in. And not only was I in, I re-upped 3 times. So the original time I got in 1989, I think my house was valued at $105,000. So obviously it goes by your appraisal. So when my house got more value, I had to reappraise again. So it's important that people keep up with the value of their home. because you're only going to get what the value of your home is at the time of the appraisal. So that's about it. I just want to say that, yes, every ward has had an opportunity to pick somebody and put them on this board now. So in the past, nobody knew who was on there, where they came from. It was lopsided for one neighborhood or another. Now everybody has a pick of all the wards that are involved with it. It's worked out real well. It's actually an active board. I'm very proud of what they've been doing. Certainly of not only of everybody, it's certainly of my appointee, Kerry Murphy, and it's worked well. And like Alderman Vega said, it was dormant. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody was ever there. Somebody stabilized it for about 6 months or so, and then Ivy was appointed as the executive director. So that's about it. But we all did have an opportunity to pick somebody and put them on this board. Every alderman had an opportunity, and they are all our own appointees. For example, I guess in the 45th ward, I know for sure. I guess she stepped down, and then Alderman Gardner got to pick somebody, and that's how he ended up picking Gordon. So with that, just want to say great job, Ivy. Good to see you, and keep up the good work. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. We're going to have a separate votes on each one of these, but before we go to that, Alderman Taliaferro.
Well, you know what, Chairman, that's the only person I did see Alderman Gardner on the call, so I wanted to see if that was Alderman Gardner's appointee, and was he okay with it? I didn't see him on this call.
Did Alderman Sposato clarify your question, though?
If Ivy can clarify it, to make sure that's his appointment.
That
Yep.
is,
Ms. Ellis.
yes. So our current commissioner, Ms. Mitchell, will be rolling off our board, and we did appoint Mr. Out of Mr. Hopkins to our board.
Okay. There are no more questions on this item, these series of items, so I'm going to go on a separate vote on each one of these. On item number 3.
Point of order.
Point of order from Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore, is that you?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. So am I hearing that the 2 aldermen are rejecting Alderman, when I say the 2 aldermen, meaning Alderman Taliaferro and who else was there that was speaking? I'm having a brain cramp.
I don't think he rejected. I think he was checking to see whether Alderman Gardner had made that appointment.
So, okay, so they're both of them are in support of these appointments.
Well, I'll let them speak. Alderman Taliaferro.
As a point of clarification, Alderman Taliaferro does support the nominees.
Okay. Alderman Moore.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So on item number 3, I have a motion for approval from Alderman Raboris for the appointment of Gordon Hawks. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries by the same roll call vote used to determine quorum. Thank you, Alderman. On item number 4 for the appointment of Laura M. Sayen, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Curtis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries by the same roll call vote used to determine quorum. On item number 5 for the reappointment of Pablo R. Medina as member of the Northwest Home Equity Commission, I have a motion for approval from Alderman Villegas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Motion carries by the same roll call vote used to determine quorum. And item number 6 for the reappointment of Diane Reyes, I have a motion for approval from Alderman Austin. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. This motion carries by the same roll call vote used to determine quorum.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead and ask for a point of order, please. Who's that?
Order, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Brookins.
Ahora somos 9. ¿Ah? No, nobody oppose it.
Mr. Medina, thank you. Alderman Brookins?
Just making sure that you have me in for purposes of form.
I do, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I move on to the next item, is Alderman Cardenas or O'Shea on the call? Either one? Okay. I have everybody else for the purposes of quorum, except for Alderman Cardenas and O'Shea so far. 1 second, please. Okay, moving on to item number 7. This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Chicago and the Chicago Transit Authority for tax increment financing assistance for improvements of the CTA Lake Street Bridge infrastructure and tracks. The total amount for this project would be $7 million. We are joined by Bill Mooney from the CTA and several members of planning for testimony on this project.
You want to hear this question?
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Wazbeck and members of the Finance Committee. For the record, my name is Bill Mooney, and I am the Chief Infrastructure Officer for the Chicago Transit Authority. I am also joined by Tim Jeffries, Deputy Commissioner in the Department of Planning and Development. I am here today to request your approval of an intergovernmental agreement that would provide the CTA with up to $7 million in TIF assistance for the purpose of repairing the approach track work for the Lake Street Bridge. I believe we have a couple slides that someone could share. Slide 2, please. The project is located at approximately 350 West Lake Street in the Loop community area in the 42nd Ward. It is also located within the LaSalle Central TIF District. Next slide, please. You can see the project location with a bit more detail on this map. The scope of work is generally on the Lake Street Bridge between Wacker Drive and Canal Street. Next slide, please. The proposed project is being done in conjunction with CDOT's replacement of the Lake Street Bridge and would fully reconstruct the critical approaches for the track that span the Chicago River, including improvements to the signal system. The total project cost for this work is an estimated $8.2 million. If approved, the intergovernmental agreement will authorize up to $7 million in TIF assistance, with the remaining $1.2 million coming from CTA's Fast Tracks funding program. Next slide. This map provides a bit more detail on the locations of work for both the project and the Lake Street Bridge replacement. As you can see in the slide, the bridge work is in the center over the river proper, and the CTA scope is on the adjacent track on either side. Both CTA and DPD support the project because it will increase the efficiency and system reliability for the Green and Pink Line trains, reduce ongoing maintenance costs, and bring the infrastructure into a state of good repair for the foreseeable future. I thank you for your consideration of this request and are available to address any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mooney. Before we go to questions, I just want to note Alderman O'Shea is present for purposes of quorum. And ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 projects here from the CTA, both in the 42nd Ward. But the staff from CTA here can answer these questions. So let me start out with Alderman Lopez.
Chairman, did you want to do both? Are you voting on?
One at a time. One at a time. So do you have on the second? Do you have questions on the second one?
I have questions for both. So I just didn't know how you wanted to. Okay. Thank you, Chairman. I actually had a question with regards to the actual TIF expenditure. When was this project introduced to the TIC?
October of 2019.
October of 2019, so it's been about a year for a decision.
It's taken a while through decision, and then it's ultimately coming today. Yes.
Okay. And not knowing what the next project's going to be, but I'm going to ask, what is the capital budget for CTA at this point? Since it seems that I think your slide said we're paying 85% of the costs through TIF for this project, an intergovernmental agreement. How much does CTA put aside for projects like this throughout the year?
Including our Red Purple modernization project, the capital program sits at about $3.5, $4 billion over 5 years.
Excluding those big ones that I know we have federal dollars for. Generally speaking, what do you guys set aside for infrastructure?
So we currently in the 5-year program have about 800 million set aside for infrastructure projects throughout. Excluding projects on the federal docket.
Is that so of $800 million, would this be considered an $8.2 million project in that 800 million, or is this a 1.2 million with 700 expected to assist it?
This would be considered.
What I'm trying to ask, I'm sorry,
Alderman, go ahead, please finish.
What I'm trying to ascertain is, how do you view a project like this and all the rest of your projects as, because it's not really 800 million if they're only 15% funded. So what do your projects look like in that regard?
Specifically, we have about 700 million over the 5 years in state funding towards the capital program. We have various other grants kind of and TIF assistance supporting the balance of that.
And how much in TIF assistance do you anticipate for the remainder of your, what year are we in your 5-year plan? I'm sorry, first off.
So it's a rolling 5-year plan that gets reapproved every year. So the current
one, where are we at?
This is the 2020 program, the 2019-2020 program.
So if it's reapproved every year, it's just a continuous 5-year plan. It's not a one that actually starts and stops.
Yes, sir.
So how much of your 5-year plan requires outside dollars from TIF?
I don't have an exact percentage, but it's a fairly small percentage of the overall program.
Okay, then would you be able to provide us a list of the projects that you anticipate as part of your 5-year plan that require TIF expenditures and intergovernmental agreements so that we can see what actually is in the hopper?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Alderman. Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. I didn't see, is Alderman Riley, did he send a letter of support for this, or is he supportive of this?
I was going to ask him to speak to it at the end. He's on the call.
Okay.
I don't know if he's, hold on one second. Let's see if he, Alderman Riley.
If he's going to speak at the end, Chair.
Yeah, I was going to have him speak at the end there, but did you have additional questions?
No, I just wanted to know if I hadn't heard from the speaker as far as any discussions with the local alderman. And then as far as that LaSalle Street TIF, if somebody from planning, what is the current balance in that TIF?
Alderman, this is Tim Jeffries, Department of Planning. Right now, today, we have $63 million in the TIF. That's prior to any surplus that's coming for the 2021 budget, though, which I don't have that exact. I don't have that figure, but I assume it will be significant.
And then this 7 million will make it 56 million then?
No, that 63 is inclusive of this that number.
The 7 million is already taken out of it.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next project, well, I have yet. Tim, I could just cut through. The next project is
I believe it's 2
million.
Yeah.
And that 63 is less the 2 million as well?
Correct. They're both inclusive.
Were they both? They were both in 42nd Ward. I apologize. Are they both in the same TIF?
Correct, but they're both in the South Central.
Okay. Okay. No further questions. Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Jeffries, did you speak to Alderman Riley about this and go through all the TIF finances in the project?
The CTA did, but yes, we did. They did speak to him. And I believe they have a letter of support.
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry, Alderman Riley's here. I'm back. I was on another call. I apologize.
That's all right. We have two projects up for you. Alderman Villegas had questions. Did you want to wait 1 second or jump in?
I'm happy to wait.
Okay. Alderman Villegas, go ahead and ask, and then Alderman Riley can close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to kind of, with this TIF investment committee, are aldermen part of the discussion that kind of brings a project forward, or how engaged are the aldermen when an entity, sister agency, or any department decides that there's a request for TIF dollars that are going to be coming forward? Are the aldermen engaged? At what point are the aldermen engaged? And are they also part of the TIF investment committee?
I can take that. So again, for the record, Tim Jeffries, Department of Planning. So any agency, department, sister agency can make a request, including aldermen. And whenever an item, it will not be reviewed until there's demonstration that the requesting agency has given notification to the alderman, not only the project alderman, but any alderman that has more of a 7.5% share of the TIF that the project sits in. And that's how input comes in, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know if that's quite accurate, Tim. I think probably portions of it would probably be accurate, but I would probably challenge you on the fact that some cases aldermen are notified of a project and seeking support once the TIF investment committee has rendered a decision, that a department then comes and asks for support, but the decision has already been made. And then number one. Number two, I would just remind my colleagues that it was not just until recent that, prior to me bringing attention to this, that the TIF investment committee was allowed to make appropriations of 2.5 million without seeking aldermanic approval. And I made note of that was a very extremely high number. And they recently brought it down to 500,000 to keep in line with the chief procurement officer's authority. So, I would just, the TIF investment committee, I think is a good concept, but however, I'd like to see more engagement from the aldermen. And then also this whole process, I think it needs to be a little bit more transparent and on how these projects are actually coming into fruition. I think what I'm seeing from sister agencies is the TIF investment committee as a supplement to agencies' capital programs. And I planned on having the other entities that are receiving TIF dollars come in front of the Economic Capital and Technology Committee to talk about their plans. But I think that this needs to happen sooner than later, because this is just continue to have requests for TIF dollars that are not generating tax dollars. They're just being supplemented for capital programs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Alderman. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. These questions are actually for Mr. Jeffries. You stated that aldermen can directly introduce TIF requests to the TIC.
Anyone can make a request, and it gets reviewed if it meets the geographic, legal, and overall budget feasibility. If it meets all those, then it moves on.
Does anyone include aldermen?
Absolutely.
And who do those requests go to?
It usually goes through the relevant, if it's a school, it goes through CPS, with a letter from the alderman, for example.
Mr. Jeffries, you said an alderman can make a request to TIC. Who does an alderman send the request to?
It really depends. I mean, for example, you could send a request to my commissioner, for example, but if it was for a school, for example, DPD we don't scope those projects. We don't know what it costs to redo a gym. Only CPS does. They're the experts with things like that. So usually in cases like that, we then direct aldermen to go to the relevant sister agency or department and work with them to scope the project and make sure that there's a firm budget. And then once that is all in place, it comes back to DPD to go through the requisite steps to agendize the item.
So an alderman cannot, in theory, issue a letter to TIC saying, I want $3 million for school project X or infrastructure project Y, or anything relevant to the usage of TIF expenditures. An alderman's request, by what you just said, has to go through a department or agency to be put forward onto the agenda.
I think just to, work out the particulars, yes.
I'm not asking about the particulars of the proposal. I'm asking, how does it get submitted? So if an alderman, which there are 50 of us, many of whom know how to put together a proposal correctly, were to have something to submit in working with a department or even just independently, who does it get sent to ensure that it is agendized, as you said?
It would go, so I'll stick with the example of a school. If it was a school, and if a request was made, we would suggest that you work with CPS, or we would send it to CPS directly to say, please look at this, finalize the scope of work, provide a detailed cost estimate. And at that point, once all that material is given to us, it would come back and then be agendized.
Who's it given to make sure I don't think you're understanding the question here, Mr. Jeffrey. So I want to make sure that I'm explicit in stating that, assuming all the scope of everything you just said is produced into a document and handed off to alderman and says, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I hand this to ensure that it gets done? Because otherwise it sounds like
Mr. Chair.
Point of information, Alderman.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could spend all day on this, but the way it's been done for years is that it goes through the particular department proposal affects. If I needed to get street resurfaced in my ward and I wanted to have that done, I would, using TIF funds, I go through the Department of Transportation. If I need to get an addition added on to my high school, I work with CPS. I mean, that's how it's always been. I'm not understanding why we're spending a lot of time on this question. Sorry, Ray.
Chairwoman, go ahead.
It just, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, point of information.
Alderman Curtis, point of information.
Yeah, in DPD's defense, Chairman, I have 3 TIFs in my ward, and I put in requests all the time to get things done in my ward, and I do. I put the request in, send it straight to DPD. I've gotten traffic signals, street resurfacing, a lot of my corners. So basically, again, in that defense, I do put in requests to get things done through the TIF. I was just letting my colleague Ray Lopez know that. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Lopez.
Waiting to see who else jumps in, Chairman. Thank you to both my colleagues, but I am aware of how it used to work. I also know that things have changed since May 2019. So I'm trying to understand how things have changed and what happens if, according to what Mr. Jeffrey says, which is factually inaccurate, aldermen cannot directly submit to the TIC. They have to go through a department, which I know and understand. But when you do that and a department refuses to introduce your request following the process that you just described, Mr. Jeffries, how do you ensure that an item actually is placed on the agenda for consideration? You cannot. And that is my point of what I'm discussing, is that despite what my colleagues have just stated, DPD has shown in many cases where it picks and chooses who they choose to submit proposals for on the city council, especially when they are introduced by aldermen, regardless of how much work they've done or who they're partnered with to get a proper bill, as you will. So what I would ask is that whatever these new guidelines are for TIC, which is formerly known as the TIF task force be shared with this committee so that we can have a greater understanding of how and when and how long these projects are reviewed and acted upon.
Okay,
It is
thank you,
not
Alderman
something
Lopez.
new. It's something that I'm
Yep.
well aware of, but I think that for my colleagues' sake, it bears answering for many individuals who are not getting that same level of respect for their community.
Point of information. Alderman
Hold on a
Vasquez.
second, Alderman Vasquez. Thank you, Alderman. Before go to Alderman Vasquez, Mr. Jeffries, just if you could send us again the process, we will disseminate to all the aldermen. Alderman Vasquez?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I guess, my experience being somebody who just came on the council. That is how I brought it up. I mentioned it to the department, and it then got, brought up for pre-take and take meetings. And I think to the point mentioned earlier, when I go to the different department, as Mr. Jeffries was saying, if it's CPS or someone else, typically they're the ones that might be the hurdle, less so than the actual process I've experienced, but I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Riley.
Thank you,
Ready?
Chairman. I
And we're
wanted
just,
to
just on number 7 too. Sorry. I still have you for number 8 as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to echo some of the comments made by Chairman Villegas and also Alderman Lopez. To be clear, these two TIF items are not at my request. They're from our sister agencies and CTA. I do support these requests, but I want to make it clear that I haven't used a single dollar of TIF out of these districts for well over a decade. So I don't really have this experience, but in the handful of times where I've attempted to, for very minor expenses, we're talking under $100,000, I've actually had requests turned down, and these are for public safety improvements. So I do think that there is a lot of room for improvement. I don't think city bureaucrats should be gatekeepers to this process. If the wrong person in the department reviews your request and deems it unworthy, that's the end of it. And so on that, I think with Alderman Lopez, I agree. So I would like to work with Chairman Villegas and you, Chairman Wagasback, to make that a more transparent process to ensure that all 50 aldermen have a fair shot at getting those requests reviewed, not by departmental bureaucrats, but by the actual committee. I do think the committee is important and it's a valuable tool, but we can always make improvements to processes around here. And I think this is one area where we need to do some work. So that said, I do support the two TIF items for the purpose of improving track safety for the L, and then also lighting and safety improvements for Dearborn. So that said, I do support the items, but this process does need to improve quickly. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Riley. So I have a motion for approval on item number 7 from Alderman Dowell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
I'm a no.
Okay,
Alderman.
Alderman Lopez?
Yep.
Okay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and with the exception of Alderman Lopez, this motion carries by the same roll call vote used to determine quorum. Item number 8 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Chicago and the Chicago Transit Authority for tax increment financing assistance for life safety improvements on the CTA Blue Line Dearborn Street subway between West Arcade Place and West Marble Street. And I believe Mr. Mooney is on the same item. Mr. Mooney?
Yes, Chairman Wagasback and members of the Finance Committee, thank you. Again, for the record, my name is Bill Mooney and I'm the Chief Infrastructure Officer for the Chicago Transit Authority. I remain joined by Tim Jeffries from the Department of Planning and Development, Deputy Commissioner. I'm here again to request your approval of an intergovernmental agreement that would provide the CTA with up to $2,083,000 in TIF assistance to make improvements to the life safety systems in the CTA's Dearborn subway. The The project is located at approximately 20 to 120 South Dearborn Street in the Loop community area in the 42nd Ward. It is also located within LaSalle Central TIF District. Next slide, please. Here's a detailed view of where these improvements will be made along the Dearborn Street between Arcade Place and Marble Place. Next slide, please. If approved, the scope of work includes 3 components. The first component is upgrades to the emergency lighting feed at Monroe Station. There's currently an original emergency lighting system at the station, which is antiquated and requires upgrading for reliable and improved use. The project will also upgrade the existing subway tunnel lighting with LED fixtures. The improved lighting increases safety at the station and provides a more secure, comfortable traveling experience. The final piece of scope is for upgrades to the vent shaft grading, which includes the replacement of the grates at sidewalk level and the supporting structure beneath. The estimated total project cost for this is $2,083,000. If approved, the intergovernmental agreement will authorize up to the $2,083,000 in TIF assistance. Next slide, please. This photo shows the platform at Monroe Street Station with the current lighting system. The upgrades described with the replacement of the emergency lighting, which are the small lights along the columns, as well as the tunnel lights that you can see over the tracks. Next slide, please. Once the work has been completed, the platform will be much improved with more well lit. This is an example of Harrison Station, which previously underwent a similar upgrade. Next slide, please. Both CTA and the Department of Planning and Development support these projects because they will result in new upgraded life safety features. These will not only directly benefit CTA customers and employees, but also further enhance the critical station in the city's public transportation network. I thank you for this consideration of this request, and I'm available for any additional questions the committee may have.
Thank you. Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is for CTA. The TIF dollars that are being appropriated for some of these projects, because they're not federal dollars, does that mean that we're using the city's MBE program to procure and utilize subcontractors for these projects?
We use the CTA's DBE program to procure our contractors.
Yeah, no, but so DBE program is a federal program, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. However, these are not federal dollars. These are actual city dollars. And so as a result of that, the city has a program, which is the MWBE VBE program as well.
Alderman, I'm aware of the city's program. Historically, the CTA, as being the one taking on the procurement, has administered it through its Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program as its kind of governing program. I would have to get back to you about kind of the relationship.
Well, I would think that some firms that are minority owned might not be disadvantaged firms given the thresholds that are different. So if we're utilizing city dollars, I would encourage any entity that uses city dollars to utilize the city's MWBE VBE program versus a DBE program where we're not capturing the total number of minority women and veteran-owned firms.
Understood, Alderman. I'll take it under consideration.
Okay, well, I don't want it to be taken into consideration. I don't want it to be taken into consideration. I'd like to see what your plan is to incorporate that, given the fact that these are not federal dollars, and report back to us how you plan to do that.
Understood.
Yes, thank you, Alderman. Yes, Mr. Mooney, please provide that through our office to get it out to the Alderman on that particular topic.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Alderman Villegas, sorry to interrupt you there. Go ahead. Did you have?
No, Chairman. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's my question.
Thank you. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you again, Chairman. Same question as, well, half the same questions as before. For the CTA, when was this project originally introduced to the TIC?
Same time frame, Alderman, October 2019.
And forgive me if I missed it on the slide. What percentage of this project is the TIF paying for?
100%.
Thank you. Okay. And just to expound and surmise on what I previously stated with the last project, and I'll keep it brief, Chairman, is that to Alderman Riley's point, bureaucrats should not be making decisions on projects and things in our wards that they know nothing about. Failing to pass that information on to the committee that makes the correct and appropriate decision. Both of these projects, 7 and 8, were submitted roughly 1 year ago. Obviously with full support of more than likely Department of Planning and Development, and allowed to come before us today. I know that there are many aldermen, myself included, who've made requests of our current and existing commissioner for DPD, Maurice Cox, almost for the same duration of time, only to find out that not one of what has been presented to him has ever made it to the tick, because he felt that he had the final say on whether or not to be gatekeeper or not. And that is simply unacceptable. And I look forward to working with Alderman Riley and Chairman Villegas to make sure that we don't have to keep coming back and me having to repeat these questions every time there's going to be a TIF request for any department or intergovernmental agreement. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Alderman Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Ray is very consistent. I will give him credit. Just a question to follow up on Alderman Villegas's comment about the MBE program. Maybe it's a clarification. So when the CTA said they were going to look at that, so are they including that as a provision in the intergovernmental agreement, or is the city, is that going to be included in that, or how is that being documented as to what they're doing? And I guess, Chairman, you said
Maybe
to have
Mr.
it come
Jeffries.
back, to have it come back through you. I guess that would be the way that provision would be inked. It would be a clause or something in the intergovernmental agreement. I'm just asking to clarify.
Right, maybe Mr. Jeffries can clarify.
Yeah, I need to go through the IGA to be 100% certain, but my strong recollection is that it directs these it directs the CTA to spend these dollars pursuant to what their policy for DBE is, and so they will be spending these funds, as they do for other projects, which is consistent with their DBE policy.
Okay, and that's right, Tim. If that's what the current document says, I'm just trying to understand that dialogue that happened with Alderman Villegas and Chairman. So are you saying when the CTA said that they would look at that, what does that mean? Are we going to amend the intergovernmental agreement, or what exactly are we? So then, in which case we can't vote on this now. I'm just trying to understand what we're doing here.
I don't think we're amending it. I think we're getting the specific IGA language, but
wait, explain that again. So if this language says they're going to do it by the CTA, which is a different standard than what Alderman Villegas was talking about, then are we saying we're going to change this to meet per Alderman Villegas, or what are we doing? I just want to know before we're voting.
I would like to get the language.
So we're going to hold it
for DBE, but I don't know if we need to hold it. Mr. Jeffries, is it substantively different from what Alderman Villegas was asking about? How substantively?
I don't. I defer to Bill on what the CTA's DBE policy is.
I mean, as the Alderman noted, the DBE policy has a more restrictive cap specific to value of firm, typically than the minority of the MBE program. So it is a smaller pool of opportunity. We typically recognize any firm that meets that cap that's registered as an MBE with the city as a DBE.
So to answer the question, Chairman, I would say yes, it is a significant change. And therefore, I'm just trying to understand, maybe I would ask my colleague, Alderman Villegas, to weigh in, but are we changing that or not when we're going to vote on this?
Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Thompson. I'm just clearly stating that the dollars that we're appropriating from TIF dollars are exempt from the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. And I would see a better opportunity to include additional minority women-owned and just recently passed by the City Council veteran-owned firms an opportunity to participate on projects where they may not be eligible to participate on CTA projects given the threshold, a lower threshold that has been incorporated by the feds versus what the city has. So the fact that we're appropriating strike that, the fact that we're supporting or porting city dollars to an entity that has a federal program, given the fact that we have our own program, I would ask that that any entity that takes city dollars have to utilize the minority women-owned and veteran-owned firms program, rather, so that way we can give a better chance to city minority women-owned and veteran-owned firms. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to support this project until that language is in there, and if it doesn't make it, then I just won't be supporting it. Not that I don't support capital and infrastructure investments, but I think that to give other entities funding and not allow for minority and women-owned and veteran-owned firms to participate because there's a barrier of a disadvantaged business enterprise program, and you might not be certified in different entities. I think that's an issue, and so that's my position. I don't know. I would ask probably legal to weigh in whether it's not just a substantive change, but I've been consistent in wanting to make sure that MW and VBE firms participate on publicly funded contracts in the city of Chicago.
I'm with you on that. Thank you, Alderman. And we do this already. We do it at O'Hare. Depending on the funding source, we either use the DBE program or we use our MBE. So it's not uncommon for us. And if this is 100% funded from TIF and therefore city dollars, I don't think it would be asking a lot to use the city standards, especially since we're funding all of it, and it's not commingled with federal funds, which can create some issues.
That's correct, Alderman.
So then it would be, I'm just trying to understand, and I'm over lawyering here, but if we're asking to amend on its face the intergovernmental agreement and use the city standard, or are we asking to vote on the document that's before us, in which case it's the DBE standard? And I think, Chairman, we just need to clarify that so we know what we're voting and how we're voting here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get somebody. I'm going to try to get somebody from law on.
Yeah,
Chairman.
That's all I was doing. I don't mean to be.
Alderman Riley, point of information. All right,
Point of
let
information.
Alderman Riley jump in.
Yeah, so I think these are all good points. And so I would ask, Chairman, that we hold this item until we do get a satisfactory answer on amending this on its face.
Thank you, Alderman.
Order, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Hold on a second. I had a point of information from Alderman Hairston first.
Excuse me, point of information, sorry.
No, you're fine. Point of order is fine, but Alderman Hairston had a point of information.
Actually, it was a question, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your question, and then I still have Alderman Irvin and Mr. Jeffries might be able to clarify something, but Alderman, Vice Chair Hairston, go ahead, please.
So according to the city, it does trigger the city's MBE, WBE, as it has, I think, like Alderman Thompson pointed out, for the airports. So that should be a part of it. If they are not going to include it, then I don't think that we should be funding this.
Yeah, And Alderman Riley has asked to hold this.
Okay, and
Alderman
so
Lopez.
what I would like from CTA is a list of all of their their DBE certified firms.
Okay, through the chair.
MBE, and provide that through the chair. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, could I add to that request from Vice Chair Hairston to include what other projects that are city funded via TIF as well?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And
thank you, Vice Chair.
okay, I still have Alderman Irvin, but Alderman Lopez, you had a point of order.
Forgive me, as a point of information, since the other project was already approved and similar questions are arising from that, do we have the ability to hold that back as well and amend it if necessary, since that also is getting $7 million in TIF funding?
Let me go back to that one in a second.
Chairman?
Hold that point of order. Yes, Alderman Riley.
Sorry, point of information. I do know that it is within your discretion as a chairman of this committee to not report these items out to City Council if you're not satisfied. So that's certainly the ultimate backstop is choosing not to report these out.
Yep, I was getting there. I just want to make sure I hear from the other two people first, but that's exactly what I think I would do on this one. Alderman Riley, and Alderman Lopez, let me hear from Alderman Irvin first.
Thank you.
Alderman Lopez, and hold that point of information. Go ahead, Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it possible to have both sets of languages where there's a DBE component and an MBE component here in this particular ordinance for CTA?
Mr. Jeffries, did you get that?
I did. I would need to talk to our law department. You know, I think that I will just add that it has been sort of a long-standing policy with not just CTA, but with all the sister agencies to apply their whatever, you know, DBE, MBE policies they have. If that's not the direction that this body would like to go in the future, that's fine. We can look at it. I would suggest that it's we just need to figure out how that works because you know, in some cases the CTA and the Park District, they both have their force, their labor force that is already in place that would do things in-house. And so it's just, I think it gets very complicated very quickly. And that's potentially why, for the record, it's in section 904 in this IGA that talks about the DBE commitment. That's why in the past, not only for the CTA, but for the other sister agencies, that it's deferred to whatever they have in their code or charter.
Well, I remember one time my father gave me $100, and he told me what I was going to do with the $100. Now, if I had $120, I could do what I wanted to do with the $20.
Jay, you need to be on
that I'm
mute.
giving you, I think we want to have
Hey,
our
Commissioner, how you doing?
we want to have our particular set of rules to apply, and you know, to the extent that on the federal side that the federal rules apply with the federal dollars, then with our dollars, we want to make sure that our rules apply with our dollars. And I'm sure there's a way for all of this to be done. Now, if that applies to the project in its entirety, I'm not sure about that, but at least with the dollars that we're providing, we want to make sure that MBE participation does occur.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin.
Thank you.
Were you done? Were you done, or were you?
No, I am done. I don't know what the answer to that is. It sounds like we may have misunderstood what was happening once the dollars left the city coffers, going to the sister agencies. But I think that's something we need to understand. And if we need to make sure that we always have MBE participation, regardless of what the sister agency or other group is doing, unless their standards are higher than ours. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Burnett, and then I think I might have somebody from law on the call.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it seemed as though we always acquiesce to the sister agencies.
Alderman, you're on mute. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Burnett, you're on mute. Alderman Burnett, you're on mute. Hold on, everyone. I think you're gonna have to start over. Try, can you hear us?
He's not muted. He's not muted.
I text him to let him know in case he can't hear us.
Let's pause for 1 second until I can get him back on. Alderman Burnett, can you just toggle your mute there again? Try again. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to see if I can get him. Alderman Burnett, did you want to try to call back in or try it again? Kamal, are there any technical difficulties overall, or is it just Alderman Burnett's speaker? Alderman Lopez, can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
You're okay. I just want to make sure we're
Alderman
working
Harris,
across.
can you hear me?
This is tech support.
Yes.
It seems that Alderman Burnett, if he would just log out and log back in, maybe that'll help his audio, or he could also try calling in.
Okay, we're going to just pause a second. Trying to get Jim McDonald on from the law department as well, but Alderman Burnett still had a question there. Did anyone else have any questions specific to the item?
This is Jim McDonald from the law department.
Oh, okay, good. Mr. McDonald, go ahead.
With respect to, I think, the question that was being referred to the law department, the ordinance would be approving the attached IGA in substantially final form. If the ordinance were to be adopted, it would not be a violation of the ordinance if we changed the applicable section from a DBE requirement to the city's MBWB requirement. That could be done without requiring another ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. So we could, Alderman Riley.
Yeah, Chairman, I would move to amend both ordinances on their face to reflect that change.
Yes, I agree with you. And first, I want to make sure that that would satisfy Alderman Villegas. I think we can start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Riley will make that a motion. Go ahead, Alderman Villegas.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
what was
We could change the ordinances on the face to reflect the city aspect of minority contracting on that item, both items.
so basically amending section 9.04 to clearly state that the applicable MWVBE program set forth by the city council will be utilized instead of the disadvantaged business enterprise program.
That's correct.
That's what I understand. Yeah. Mr. McDonald, is that correct?
I hear that's what you're asking to do. You can do that. You'd have to amend, since you've already acted on item 7, you would need to, presumably, to go back and revise that. But you could, if that's the vote of the committee to say both IGAs are approved with that amendment, we would implement that.
Okay.
No, that's my preference, Chairman.
Chairman, a point of order.
Alderman Thompson.
Yes. I just want to clarify when we're talking about this, because Alderman Villegas brought up like veteran employment. It's not only MBE, WBE, but it's what our sort of contractual employment standards are that we set forth. And I think perhaps Alderman Riley's original motion or thought of holding this so we get that clarified. My concern is with the first one, there's $7 of the $8 million is coming from us. I don't know where that other $1 million is. And if it's coming from federal funding, does that then commingle with our 7 and create the DBE? And so if we can clarify, I think it's more complicated. So we clarify
Yes.
that might be
Let's
best. Thank you.
Let's clarify that first from Mr. Mooney.
And then point of information, Mr. Chairman, sorry about my internet messing up.
That's okay.
So my thing is, it seems as though each time that federal money comes to the city, we have to acquiesce to the federal way of hiring people with the DBE and all of those other things. It seems as though when they get city money, that they need to acquiesce to our way, to our procurement office of hiring folks. So I don't understand why we give them our money and then go with the way that they hire people instead of them. And then when they give us their money, we have to go the way how they hire people. It doesn't seem like a fair trade-off to me.
Let us hear from Mr. Mooney. You briefly touched on that 1.2 million earlier, and then from Mr. McDonald. So, Mr. Mooney, where does the other 1.2 come from?
The 1.2 is funded through our Fast Tracks program, which is off of the ground transportation tax.
So it's not federal funds.
No.
Mr. McDonald.
Sorry, I was unmuting my own phone. If there is, so I think the question I'm being asked is if there is on a project, both federal funds and city funds through the TIF, can the city require that the city's MB, WB, VBE requirements apply? The complication, as Tim Jeffries referred to, was we would have to look at the federal regulation to see if we have what's considered one project or multiple projects. If as a factual matter, we only have one project, then there would be a problem if we have inconsistent requirements between the two sets of requirements. If, as Mr. Mooney described, they aren't technically inconsistent, but one would be considered a subset of the others, both could apply, but the more restrictive would control. So we will have to look at it to see whether or not, and this would be done on a project by project basis, to see whether or not it would be feasible if we impose our MB, WB, VBU requirements on these projects to see if we can consider that we have more than one project, or is it really one project? And if there are federal funds involved, whether or not we could figure out a way to move forward with implementation and satisfy both sets of requirements.
Right, and on this one, the GTT is a city tax, I believe, that was set up in—
That's correct.
8 years ago, I think. Actually longer, maybe 10 years. So we're not beholden to that federal aspect of it on either one of these items. Perhaps in the future we would be, and that we should, we can work on those future items to make sure that determination is made correctly. But on these two items, these are both city funds, TIF and GTT on the first one, and just TIF on the second. So we could amend the items. Now, it's been said that we could recess and make those changes to item number 8 and item number 7. Or I think we could vote with those, I could hold it and not report it out until we see those changes. But before we do that, let me go to Alderman Irvin and then Alderman King. Did you have legal questions for Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I did. I guess the question is, if you have federal money and city money, can we segregate how these dollars are handled? Because I think they're operating under different sets of rules. Or must all of this go under one set of rules?
Well, as I tried to explain earlier, we would have to be able to say, again, it depends on the exact details of the federal regulation. But if
do you want to sign off on it? Do you mind? Sorry, we're just.
And we have Jeff Levine on the call too. But remember, we're not using federal funds on either one of these projects.
Right. So the question. So, am I answering a hypothetical from Alderman Irvin that doesn't apply to these two items?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. I thought that this was federal money. If this is all city money, then I think the question is kind of clear. I thought that this was a federal city mix. So,
No.
Okay, if that's not the case, then go to the next person. Sorry about that, Chairman.
Okay. Yes, GTT was the ground transportation tax from, I believe, 2010. So, yes. Is that Jeff?
Good afternoon, Jeff Levine, Law Department. Can I suggest both, because of the nature of the subject matter that's being discussed and the changes being proposed, as well as the fact that our city council rules provide that any amendments need to be accompanied by a paper strike-in ad document and distributed to all the members of the committee, that if there is a continued appetite to amend those two items, that recessing the committee for a half an hour or 45 minutes to allow for those amendments to be looked at and written up properly is what I would strongly recommend.
Thank you, Jeff. We could recess if that's the sense of the committee members, to make sure that we get the right language in there. We also have 3 more items to go, so we could hammer those out and then come back in half an hour if that language is prepared.
That's good scheduling.
Good idea.
Alderman King and then Alderman Riley.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, I appreciate this discussion. Appreciate Alderman Villegas, Riley, Burnett, and everybody who's kind of weighed in. Is there a possibility, and maybe Alderman Riley through the LRB, so that we don't have to have this debate every single time, that anytime, you know, we have intergovernmental agreements that don't come in conflict with DBE regulations, that, you know, our city standards prevail? It would seem that would carry the sentiment of, I think, what people are trying to do here, but also not have us, you know, kind of on a project by project basis, hope that somebody catches dollars from our city coffers, that we have standards about, that when we, you know, agree to share them with others, that they abide by those as well. So that's just a recommendation, kind of long term.
Thank you, Alderman King. Alderman Riley.
Thank you, Chairman. And to Alderman King's point, I'm happy to have LRB start working on that. I think that should be the automatic default. I think you're right. As far as the fate of these two ordinances, Chairman, my preference would be to have the law department draft those starting now,
They are.
to your point, and if we have to come back in half an hour after we're done with our regular items, I'm down for that. I think that'd probably be the best approach. Thanks,
Okay.
Chairman.
You're welcome. Let me hold this item for the time being, number 8. Law Department is working on the language, hopefully as we speak. I think they've got the idea of what we need here for the changes. And we will go on to our next items. Recess, if they can't get it done, which I don't think they'll be able to get it done in 10 minutes. We will use the same, I think we're going to use the same Zoom information. We will recess, we're going to keep the meeting open, so you can either go on mute and go off and then come back on when we're ready to start up. And I think I will we're going to go through these next items and then determine what time we will recess to in just a few minutes. So bear with me. We're going to hold item number 8 and move on to item number 9. Okay. And thank you everybody for that conversation.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Dow, yes.
I just wanted to remind everyone that there is a recessed Budget Committee meeting at 3 p.m. today, just so that we have that information out there as you look into recessing this committee.
Thank you, Chairman Dow.
Thank you.
Okay, and the recess was going to be for about half an hour, so we'll try to get Law Department the information they need and get that moving. So with that, let me move on to item number 9. We're moving on to communications from the Department of Law. Item number 9 is the monthly report of the judgment, verdicts, and settlements from the Department of Law for the month of September, and these will be placed on file with the clerk.
Chairman, I have a question on one of the settlements, please.
Yes, Alderman Tunney.
So through the chair, I see that there was a case lawsuit settled from BACP on a First Amendment challenge to a city ordinance and then an unlawful search, both with BACP. So could we get details through your through the chair on that one?
Yes, I don't think Jeff would have the details on that right now, but I will ask Law and BACP to get that through the chair to the.
So we don't make the same mistake again.
You're right.
And I don't know if they're two. They may or may not be connected. Okay, but the two from BACP, I think those are the only BACP ones on. Okay.
That's what I saw too. Good question, and I will get the department to get that through BACP's attorney. Thank you, Alderman Tunney. Items 10 and 11 are authorizations for the payment of various small claims against the city and the denial of payment of various small claims against the city. If there's no objection, I ask that these items be placed on the omnibus as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess until, let me just 1 second. We're going to leave the meeting open again and recess until 12:45. 12:45. Thank you, everyone, for those questions.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, colleagues, we're going to start up in about 2 minutes. I'll give a chance for everybody to get back on.
Quick question, Chairman. We just have this one item left, or do we have any other business?
We do not have any other business after this.
Just the one item. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to start up in about a minute and a half, everyone. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Coming back out of that 35-minute recess there. Want to appreciate everybody getting on that conversation. We are ready to gavel back in. I'm just checking to see if everybody's all set there. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the complexity of these issues, I don't want to rush Department of Law and CTA on the issue, and we've got a lot of questions from fellow aldermen about the complexity of this. So I'm not going to go ahead and take a vote on these. We're going to hold them, and we will recess until tomorrow at 3:30. I think that would be more prudent and allow aldermen to make sure that we are able to review the documents as we put them together. Alderman Lopez, did you have a question?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Does that mean we'll need, committee members will need to vote to reconsider the previous item number 7?
That would probably happen on the next meeting. That was my intent, to make sure that we could do that if it's applicable. But due to the law department officials and CTA officials looking at this, I want to make sure that we do it right. And I think it would be imprudent to move forward on it. So with that, I will recess until 3:30 tomorrow afternoon on October 6th. And I apologize for the delay on this, but I want to make sure we get it right. So Alderman, that concludes this meeting. We will recess until 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. And I thank you all for your good questions and pertinent issues here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks, Chair.